Hello, I'm Garrett Stevens, Chairman of HemiSync. Welcome to this introduction to our HemiSync technology, the most powerful tool for developing our human potential. HemiSync is short for hemispheric synchronization and refers to a safe, time-proven audio guidance technology with many practical applications for your daily life. Our founder, Robert Monroe, a pioneer in the field of sound research, developed HemiSync. Since its discovery, HemiSync has been researched extensively. It has been clinically and scientifically proven to be effective. For those interested, you will find many professional and clinical research papers available on our website. Moreover, we have continued to further enhance and develop our HemiSync technology for more than 50 years. The audio guidance technology works through the generation of complex, multi-layered audio signals, which act together to create a resonance that is reflected in unique brainwave forms characteristic of specific states of consciousness. The result is a focused, whole brain state known as hemispheric synchronization, or HemiSync for short. HemiSync has received international acclaim for its ability to help people achieve a more satisfying life by directly addressing many practical, everyday, real-life applications. Specific combinations of HemiSync signals, for example, can help individuals achieve laser-like focus and concentration. In fact, many of our concentration titles are even reported to be helpful to those with ADD, ADHD, or other learning challenges. Different HemiSync signals may be used to facilitate profound relaxation or to help you manage stress, improve your overall wellness, or help you to create something in the world. Still other HemiSync mixes may be employed to promote deep meditative states for exploring expanded states of awareness. We even have HemiSync titles to assist you in obtaining a good night's sleep. The HemiSync process can be quite effective when delivered over conventional speakers. In fact, it has been delivered over conventional speakers for many years, or with speakers placed on either side of the bed for sleep enhancement. Most of our research, however, has evolved around the classic use of HemiSync delivered by stereo headphones. In this application, the HemiSync audio guidance process works quite simply by sending different tones to each ear by stereo headphones. The two hemispheres of the brain then act in unison to hear a third signal, the difference between the two tones. This is not an actual sound, but an electrical signal that can only be perceived within the brain by both brain hemispheres working together. Allow me to demonstrate. First, you will hear a tone in your right ear. Now, we will play a tone of a slightly different frequency in your left ear. The slight differences in the tones cause your brain to create a third sound, a wavering sound, that is not on the recording. This tone is the difference between the tones you are hearing in your right and left ears. These wavering sounds encourage your brain to move from functioning in a state of random brainwave activity, which looks like this, to a balanced, focused, and highly synchronized brainwave pattern, which looks like this. Using an analogy, we can say that your brain normally acts like a light bulb, which produces random, incoherent light. With HemiSync, your brain acts more like a laser beam, which produces focused, coherent light. HemiSync produces a focused, coherent mind, which is an optimal condition for improving human performance. Imagine what this enhanced whole brain potential can do for you.
In traditional Chinese medicine, this energy is known as qi. In Japan, the same energy is called ki. And in yoga and Ayurvedic medicine, this energy that comes through the breath is known as prana or shakti. Western medicine tends to look at the breath as only the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, whereas Eastern medical practices and Eastern philosophies can look at the breath as life energy. I have found in my medical practice that integrating both Eastern and Western techniques offers people the greatest chance for healing. All of the world's major spiritual practices also use music, voice, and chanting as part of their healing rituals. And every major culture on earth has used sound and voice and music as part of their healing practice. Gregorian chants that are sung at Vespers, Sufi chants, chants from the Kabbalah, the Sanskrit chants of yoga, all use chanting containing many similarities. There is a concept known as entrainment. This concept was described initially by the 17th century physicist Huygens. He studied pendulums in a room and found that when several pendulums were placed in proximity, they were each initially swinging at random. But if one of the pendulums was larger, the larger pendulum would entrain the smaller pendulums so that they all would be swinging in harmony. We see examples of entrainment throughout life. There is homeostasis within the human body, where the endocrine system, the immune system, the skeletal system, and the cardiovascular systems are all functioning, both individually as well as entrained with each other. For those of you who snorkel, you may have noticed schools of fish on the coral reef. Sometimes hundreds or even thousands of fish turn at exactly the same time. That also is an example of entrainment. So we see entrainment in nature and in medicine. If one is around a person who is angry and frustrated or pessimistic or depressed, he may notice that person throws him off. That expression has deep meaning because what he is saying is that person threw him out of his inner harmony. By the same token, one can be around somebody who is very optimistic and peaceful and notice that he feels so peaceful and happy when he is around that person. These are all nonverbal energies, which are all examples of entrainment. So it is most beneficial to use this CD on a regular basis because with all of the disharmony in the world, even watching the nightly news can throw you out of your harmony. It is very important for wellness that you restore this harmony on a daily basis. Regularly doing the meditations on this CD or listening to the music will help you maintain harmony. It will entrain you to the rhythm that is most fundamental to your heart, which is the rhythm of inner peace. We know that the human heart has an electromagnetic field that is 50 times stronger than the electromagnetic field generated by the brain. So really, it is the heart that is controlling the brain and the rest of your body, rather than vice versa. When the brain is in harmony, it releases neurotransmitters, or chemicals, which travel to most of the body's systems. These enhance the immune system, which have receptors for these molecules. They enhance your digestion because the gastrointestinal tract also has receptors for these molecules. These molecules affect your heart rate, your blood pressure, your stress hormones, which come from parts of your endocrine system. The human voice is simply audible breath. It is breath that you can hear. So it is, in essence, life energy that is made audible. By using the human voice for chanting, for singing, even for humming, you are using one of the most powerful healing tools that I have ever found as a physician. It may be a long forgotten part of yourself, but one which can assist you with your wellness practice. If you happen to be suffering from a physical illness or disability, your own voice can assist in your recovery.
So, chronic stress is something we're probably all pretty familiar with. And you've probably heard people talk about how stress is a very common underlying factor in a lot of different health issues. And dysregulated nervous system, stress, trauma, anxiety, these types of issues are becoming really, really prevalent. So I actually think that this is a very, very important conversation for the modern day. And the way that I like to talk about therapeutic humming, it's like learning how to wash your hands, but instead of washing your hands to get rid of invisible bacteria, you are learning to cleanse your nervous system. You're learning to regulate your nervous system to get rid of an invisible foe, which is that chronic stress that so often plagues us. Even in low levels, it can have really detrimental effects on physical health. So I think it's really important. My mission is to get everyone humming. And it just so happens that HemiSync and a lot of HemiSync music is amazing for humming with. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But first, I want to tell you a bit about the benefits of humming. So first of all, we're using the voice, but I don't really want you to think about it in terms of singing because you're not really singing. I really encourage people to think about using the voice, specifically in a hum, as if you are putting a massage tool directly on your vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve runs through the neck. It basically shares space with the vocal cords. And one of the reasons why humming is so great for regulating your nervous system and reducing stress super quickly is because you're basically putting a vibrational massage tool directly on your vagus nerve. And it stimulates the vagus nerve and it really helps you drop, even within a few minutes, into that parasympathetic rest and digest nervous system. So don't even think about it like you're singing. Think about it like you are putting a vibrational massage tool that you already have inside your body directly on your vagus nerve. And it really takes away some of the anxiety that a lot of people feel around using the voice, which is totally understandable. That's a bit of a self conscious fear that's totally worth getting over in order to actually get the benefits of using your voice for sound healing and therapeutic purposes. So, because it's really good at regulating your nervous system quickly, it's one of the best tools that we have in sound healing for working with trauma, working with burnout, working with various nervous system issues. If you've got PTSD, if you've got a family member who has PTSD or trauma, these types of things are like the first aid kit. I have used this myself to overcome extreme levels of burnout. And working with my own trauma. So I've seen this firsthand so many times. It is miraculous what it can do for your nervous system. So that's really an important point here. In a similar vein, if you have anxiety, which is a really common thing, even if you just drank too much coffee one day and you've got the jitters and it's not like a chronic anxiety, you can use therapeutic humming to really bring your nervous system back down to a calm place. And I use this quite a lot in this case, and it works pretty quickly, especially with HemiSync, honestly, because HemiSync really helps to reduce the scattered brain waves and just bring you into a more calm, focused, centered place. So when you combine HemiSync with humming, really good combination for working with anxiety. One of the really cool benefits of therapeutic humming is that when you hum, you're actually vibrating the mucosal tissue in your nasal cavity. Just do it for a second and you'll feel a vibration right here. Well, it just so happens that that mucosal lining produces something called nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is a very, very important compound for human health. And you actually get nitric oxide when you breathe through the nose. This is one of the benefits of nose breathing versus mouth breathing. Just breathing through the nose, you're actually going to get small amounts of nitric oxide every time you take a breath. But when you hum, especially for prolonged periods of time, you can get 15 to 20 times the nitric oxide. And basically, the vibration stimulates additional release of nitric oxide in your nasal cavity. And if you take a really big breath through the nose after you're done with a round of humming, you're getting all of that nitric oxide into the lungs, into the bloodstream. And it's actually really important that you take a big breath through the nose because nitric oxide is a gas and it only lasts for 3 seconds. So when you're done humming, take a breath through the nose and make sure that you get that nitric oxide before it dissipates. One of the benefits of nitric oxide is that it's a vasodilator, so it actually helps to open up the blood vessels, provide better circulation, and for things like high blood pressure, it's really, really great. Hello, everyone. My name is Nicholas Penn, and I am a musician, sound therapist, and I'm also the guy behind the scenes here on the HemiSync YouTube channel. And today I want to talk to you about a really simple way of increasing the benefits of the time that you spend with HemiSync just by making some simple sounds. So a couple months ago, we did a poll and asked what other types of sound healing modalities or practices you use in addition to HemiSync. And the response that we got was a lot of you all are really into humming and vocal toning, which is awesome because I am also super into humming and vocal toning. Humming has actually become the #1 sound healing practice in my life. And that was a complete surprise. I went from being a lifelong songwriter to basically not even singing words for a few years because I was just humming and strumming on my guitar. And I want to talk to you about some of the amazing benefits of therapeutic humming and what it's doing for you physiologically and how you can actually combine humming with HemiSync and really just merge the powers of both of those practices and level up the benefits that you're giving to your body all in one beautiful practice.
Certainly, my academic advisors were typical academic advisors. You will thank us later on for being so strict with you. And I'm going, no, I won't. Well, years later, I thank them because I had to have a great experimental design. No one has ever found flaw with the design. The research proved that using the right music can instantly change your brainwaves. Not waiting 20 minutes like the music therapist said. Using classical music, you can get a slight change of what you could get relaxed after 20 minutes. And you'll appreciate this. When I found out about that field, I said, excuse me, I'm from New York. I don't have 20 minutes. What do you have that'll get me there in a minute? And they said, that's impossible. No music can get you relaxed in a minute. And I said, let me show you my new music. Let me show you the scientific data. Let me play it. And when my first album came out, one of the reasons why it got around the world is that people, both meditators and people who've never meditated before, didn't know what the word meant, didn't know what relaxation was. So, wow, I'm taking a deep breath. I like the way this feels. What is that called? It's called relaxation. And there was an instantaneous state-related experience. Well, there were theories and concepts behind what I do with music, and a lot of it has to do with taking music out of the linear aspect, the predictive model, the way we've been culturally conditioned to respond to music. Let me give you an example. If I've done this in my workshops ever since the beginning. If I sing a familiar pattern, watch what happens in your body at the end of it. So, and those of you who are following at home, pay attention. So it's very simple. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. And how many of you are holding your breath right now? Hearing that last note in your head, do, but holding your breath. Why? Because we know what's supposed to happen. Right. It's like waiting for the other shoe to drop. The problem is that keeps you hung up in the future. Relaxation and healing only happens in the now, in the present moment. It's the power of now, which Eckhart Tolle has been talking about for years. I've been talking about for 40 years. And the concept in sound and music, it's immediate, but it's something no one ever paid attention to. My graduate faculty said, you're violating every rule of classical composition. I said, yes. That's the point. Right. That's the reason the music worked that way. But it was Western classical music, not Eastern classical music. The Tibetan Buddhist, the concept of chant and mantra, some of the Indian raga, all understood that of being in the moment, being in the now. The timeless moment allows you to get, and the other big aspect, where coming from a jazz and rock background, everything was all filled up. In those days, the faster you played, the more points you got. And I was able to play really fast. And that was great.
You knew the space had a lot to say.
I didn't back then.
Oh, I see.
But after getting into meditation,
right.
yoga, and hearing it and feeling in my own body, I play some notes, I listen to the reverberations, that there was room for the echoes and the overtones. And that first day, after that experience in the woods, I found myself at a piano. Part of the other magic of that day is I went to, quote, the wrong building of the meeting I was supposed to go to.
Wow.
No one was there, but there was a big, old, upright piano from like 1920s that sounded great. It was almost like a grand. Playing the sustain pedal, I am going soaring, transported into the space between the notes. And I've always used that as my metaphor. So when Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer started talking about the space between thoughts, the gap between thoughts, I said, that's what I've been talking about for all these years. That's what I hear, and that's where I hear the next phrase that I'm going to play. I don't know what I'm going to play typically until I play it. Sometimes I don't even know after I play it. I don't hear it until I listen to the playback. But that concept and opening up, it also means that in order to play the music that I do, and this is what's encoded into all the albums, I have to be in that space. I can't fake it. And so for me, when I go in to do a recording, the recording studio is my temple. It is the place where I connect to the quantum field and to God and to the universe and my angelic helpers and my band, the invisible band that most people can't see. Some of them do. And it's where, in fact, my last major album, Paradigm Shift, there were two songs that I felt like I was levitating. And one of them, I did get up out of the piano, off the piano bench, and walk back to the control. I didn't see, I've been in that studio for 5 years. I know there's a big glass door separating the control room. I didn't see it. Yes. And
Wow.
Luckily, my head was kind of down because I was just kind of floating back there, and I hit right here. So I had a big scar for a while, a bump, but I didn't break my nose. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here right now. So it was such a deep place where the music just pours into me. And I don't necessarily, I would hear it in the moment. And one time I remember thinking, wow, I really like that phrase. I couldn't remember what I just played. So it's totally, for me, being in the moment. And the other thing I learned from the early research is that the state of the performer, the recording artist, the musician, is recorded when you make a recording. So when you listen, if you're sensitive and you're paying attention to this, you will pick up on that.
Yep.
The phrase is, music is a carrier wave for consciousness.
Yes.
And that was kind of my
That's
secret.
what I'm
I didn't
saying.
talk about that publicly per se much early on. So a lot of other musicians didn't necessarily figure that out. But any musician is going to be imprinting their
Yeah.
It's a
consciousness.
vibration.
Right.
1960s
And so if you're coming
music,
from a
listen to
position
that
of fear
consciousness.
or
You will
uptightness
feel
or
it.
anxiety, as many classical people do when they're doing a concert, because everyone knows what the right notes are, and people are going to mark off points and criticize you if you play the wrong notes. One of the great things about being a composer and being able to improvise is no one knows what the right notes are,
Yes.
including me. So
That's
I don't
right
have to worry
hemisphere.
about playing wrong notes. And in the recording studio, yes, there have been a few times that I've hit some wrong notes. We just erase that. You never hear it. So I never have to come from a position of fear. And that
Yes.
allows my heart
Wonderful.
to open up and just the positive energy to come through.
Mm.
And that's what a lot of people have been picking up on without even realizing. That's part of the Halpern effect, or that's part of the inner peace effect. That and it's also, it's not me, it's the energy that comes
Yes.
through. In fact, my very first album, which had colors like this on the cover with a curly and picture of a leaf, I didn't even have my name on the cover. Stores wouldn't carry it. They said, "Who did this?" Well, the leaf didn't record it. You have to
The
put your
curly and photography did
right.
it.
You have to put your name. I said, but
Right.
it wasn't me. I just, of a vehicle. They said, we don't care. You're putting out an album. You got to have a name.
We got to put it in a slot
Right,
for S
exactly.
or H.
H.
Right.
So I said, okay, that's the way the world is. I'll
Right.
I'll
Well,
do
yeah.
that.
Right.
You know,
That's
so-
fine. Right.
But it was those things.
But energetically, you were feeling that. So
Oh,
the
from
album
the
and the
first day.
music, right? Yeah, exactly.
Its groundbreaking biofeedback research from 1973 helped establish the scientific basis of sound and music's effect on the human biofield and our subtle energy anatomy by his classic album, Chakra Suite. Stephen, welcome.
Well, thank you, Alex. Great to be here, and hello, everybody.
Always an honor to have you here. And yeah, as we just noted in that intro, you began this work as a music creator and researcher back in the mid-70s.
Actually, my interest in sound healing began while I was in high school when I read an article about Edgar Cayce and his readings talking about the healing temples in ancient Egypt using sound and music. So I was already getting hooked, and in college, I read the book by Carl Jung on mandalas, and at the end, there was in the last chapter, there was an image of somatic imagery. The first time I had ever seen the work of Dr. Hans Jenny. So I was already looking for that information, and the books that I would find talked about the ancient tradition of sound healing, but you can never hear any actual music. There were no recordings from ancient Greece or ancient China. And as a student of the 60s, part of my quest was to learn what sound healing, not in ancient Greece, sounded like, but what it would sound like in our culture today. And at that point, there were no books specifically speaking about, certainly about the physical effects of music on consciousness. There were books from the music therapy world that talked about the effects of rhythm on the heart, or whether certain music made you happy or sad. But in terms of spiritual and energetic healing, no one had ever really looked at that, including me. And in 1969, I had no idea that when I came out to California for 2 weeks, my life would change. I'd be invited to be on staff at the sister organization of the famous Esalen Institute. And that 3 weeks into being on the staff there and giving up my graduate fellowship in Buffalo, where I was going to study all this, I'm playing for all the teachers who would teach on the weekends, leading the seminars. And Dr. Stanley Krippner and Dr. John Lilly, in successive weekends, said, your music seems to be very relaxing. We see the subjective, responses of people. If you want to be taken seriously in the scientific world, you need to do biofeedback research. Now, I had just left a graduate program that I was getting paid to be in a fellowship, and I had exclaimed to everybody, you'll never catch me back in graduate school again. But Dr. Krippner said, we have the best biofeedback equipment on the West Coast outside of UCLA, and if you apply to our new program, I'll guarantee that you get in, and you could use the equipment for free. So that was the beginning of how I got back into the world of science and consciousness, because I was already reading about quantum physics and, of course, music and spirituality. But searching for other information, there wasn't an internet back then. And so that became the focus of my graduate research, never dreaming that I was going to have a career talking about this and teaching people what I found out from my research in reading all the books and connecting directly with quantum physicists and quantum biologists, psychics, and other great authors and researchers like Andrea Puharich and Itzhak Bentov, that really put me in a position where I had more of a focused body of information than anybody else. So what do you do with it? You have to write a book. You have to tell people about it when you find something that's good. And for a number of years, I was the only one out there traveling around the country, flying a different city every weekend, doing workshops and concerts and spreading the gospel of the healing powers of sound and music.
Oh, and yes, your early books, Sound, Health, and Tuning the Human Instrument, but as far as I'm aware, were a couple of the earliest books that really laid it out there, the therapeutic, transformative effects of sound and music.
Right. We look at this cover now. This was my 4th edition of the cover. I was so underfunded. I came back. I got turned on to cymatics at the first Festival of Mind, Body, Spirit in London in April 1977. And that's where I was introduced to the work of Hans Jenny and the cymatics videos, which at that point were very, very secret, hush hush. But I came back to America and I said, I now have a way when I'm on a radio show or TV show or being interviewed from the press, I could show them sound evidence that sound could literally move molecules of sand and water and air and smoke. And I said, how do you get this information out there? And my consultant said, write a book. And my first copy of this book in 1977 had a one-color, like Kinko's quick print, cheapo cover. And that was the first book that I self-published, didn't have an editor, didn't know what I was doing, but I got it out there, and it still impacted a lot of lives because the information was the first time anyone had seen some of them. And over the years, I was able to improve the cover graphics, etc. But when I was working on my second book, I got a call from Harper and Row, and they said, we want somebody to write a book on sound healing and sound health, and everyone says we need to talk to you. So I said, okay, I'll give you my book. Didn't have an agent, big mistake. But anyway, that got the book out there into a wider audience with Harper and Row. And there was a lot of work, but it really helped get a basis of information out there in a way that had really never been out there before. It was about how some of the mystical experiences figured into the recording of some of the albums, and how, while I was recording some of my albums, mystical experiences happened, and tie in some of the science behind that. I've dedicated my life to researching, recording, and getting the music out to the public. Music that balances and harmonizes body, mind, and spirit, that comes from a place of peace that isn't so much about entertainment, but more about entrainment, entraining our brains to the frequencies of inner peace, of mindfulness, of being in the moment, in the now. And that's what I've been putting out in terms of not just the music, but the album covers with the planet and radiating music to harmonize the planet and, of course, people on the planet. That album, Spectrum Suite, has changed its name to the original name of Chakra Suite, so in which we're balancing the chakras, which, as Shirley MacLaine picked up on, is one of the most powerful ways that we can nurture body, mind, and spirit. And it's so simple. When we use sound, we can resonate and activate our chakras to come into higher states of coherence and balance
with the appropriate sounds. And today I'll be playing a selection from my Deep Alpha album. This is the Grammy-nominated album from 2012. And the music comes from a place of peace, and those frequencies are encoded into the music. And as you listen, and as we listen together, we entrain our brains together so that we all create a larger standing wave of consciousness, creating a morphic field of oneness, planetary unity on the wings of sound. Deep theta involving brain wave entrainment technology. We live in a world of rhythms, and our bodies automatically respond to the rhythms around us. Most of them are more obvious and affect our heartbeat. For instance, the beat of music. You might feel your heartbeat changing speed as I change the speed of this drum. It's very quick, but it's a law of nature. In the same way, our brains respond to more subtle incoming sonic stimuli. And when we create a certain context of closely related tones, we can literally dial in the desired brainwave frequency in terms of cycles per second. That's what we do on Deep Theta, and we'll now go over to the computer and show you, as well as have you listen to examples. The first example is beautiful music, gets you instantly relaxed without any extra brainwave entrainment. The second example adds the brainwave entrainment to the same music. You can hear it at the beginning, and this tone continues throughout the musical sample, and you might be able to feel as well as hear the difference. Benefits of listening to a brainwave entrainment soundtrack is that it delivers you to the desired specific state instantly and with a virtual guarantee of success. And in that state, you'll experience greater relaxation, deeper meditation, and more bliss.
That is the feeling of joy. Joy often comes from listening to or singing music as well. With the human voice you are also giving, you are sending out either good intentions and positive energy into the world, or sometimes negative intentions and negative energy. Your voice through chanting, through prayer, even singing with good intentions, purifies your body and purifies your surroundings. So if you listen to this CD, realize that you hear with your ears and that also you are hearing with your body. Your body is composed of 70% water. It is an excellent conductive medium for sound and vibration. So you are not only hearing with your ears, you are hearing with your body as well. Hearing is actually the first sense to develop. It appears when the fetus is only 4.5 months gestational age. The power of sound can accomplish so many things. As you use this CD, think about creating joy and peace, for you have these as your birthright.